Lindsey Vonn crashing just 13.4 seconds into the downhill final, skiing in a brace just 9 days after rupturing her ACL in her left knee.
What really happens when the greatest athlete in your sport suddenly disappears, and then comes back when everyone thought it was impossible? Lindsey Vonn wasn't supposed to return. After years of brutal crashes, relentless pain, and a body that had taken more punishment than most careers survive, she walked away from skiing in 2019. Fans assumed they had seen her final run, but behind the scenes, something unexpected was unfolding. A risky medical decision, a controversial comeback, and a chain of events that would shock even her biggest supporters. So the real question isn't why she retired, it's why she refused to stay gone. Most people think Lindsey Vonn retired because she was ready to move on, because she says, but the reality was far more intense. By the time 2019 arrived, her body wasn't just hurting after races, it was hurting all the time. We're talking about years of violent crashes, torn ligaments, fractured bones, and surgeries that would have ended the careers of almost anyone else. She had pushed through injury after injury, refusing to slow down while continuing to dominate one of the most dangerous sports on the planet. But eventually, even her legendary pain tolerance hit a wall. Simple things, walking, training, even sleeping comfortably, were becoming a challenge. And when an athlete starts struggling with everyday life, not just competition, the decision stops being about winning and starts being about long-term survival. So she stepped away, announcing her retirement with honesty, admitting her body simply couldn't take another season. To fans, it looked like the end of an era. One final goodbye from a champion who had nothing left to prove. But what nobody realized at the time was that Lindsey Vonn wasn't planning to fade quietly into the background. In fact, the decision she would make next would leave doctors and the entire ski world completely stunned. For a while, it looked like Lindsey Vonn was settling into life after racing, building her business ventures, appearing on television, and enjoying a pace of life that didn't involve flying down icy mountains at terrifying speeds. But behind the scenes, one problem refused to go away: the pain in her knee. This wasn't the kind you stretch out or rehab in a few weeks. It was constant, grinding, and a daily reminder of everything her body had endured. Then came the decision that changed the entire trajectory of her story. In 2024, Vonn underwent a robot-assisted partial knee replacement, fitted with titanium components designed to restore mobility and reduce the bone-on-bone agony she had been living with. Procedures like this are usually associated with retirement, not comebacks, especially not in a sport where one wrong edge can send you cartwheeling at highway speeds. But once she recovered, something unexpected happened. The pain that had controlled her life for years was suddenly manageable. She could train harder, move freely, and for the first time in a long while, her body wasn't screaming at her to stop. That's when a thought crept in. Quiet at first, but impossible to ignore. What if she wasn't finished after all? And the moment that idea took hold, everything started accelerating. At first, the idea of Lindsey Vonn returning to professional skiing sounded almost unreal, like something fans would joke about but never seriously expect. After all, athletes don't typically come back from retirement with a partially replaced knee and jump straight into elite competition. But Vonn has never built her career on doing what's typical. By late 2024, the whispers turned into headlines. She was officially rejoining the U.S. ski team for the 2024-25 season. Suddenly, the comeback wasn't hypothetical, it was happening. What made the situation even more dramatic was a special wildcard-style entry rule that allowed decorated veterans to compete without spending years rebuilding their ranking. Supporters called it a well-earned opportunity for a legend. Critics weren't so kind. Some argued it gave her an unfair shortcut, while others questioned whether returning at this level was simply too risky. And just like that, the narrative shifted. This wasn't just a feel-good comeback. It was becoming one of the most debated returns in modern skiing. Still, Vonn didn't fire back at the noise. She let the speculation grow, the doubts multiply, and the pressure build. Because deep down, she understood something most people didn't yet realize. The only response that mattered would come on the mountain. The louder the comeback became, the harsher the criticism grew. What started as curiosity quickly turned into open skepticism. Commentators questioned whether returning with a surgically rebuilt knee was inspiring or reckless. Some former athletes quietly hinted she was chasing headlines. Others flat out said she was pushing her luck in a sport that doesn't forgive hesitation. Online, the conversation got even sharper. People debated whether the wildcard entry gave her special treatment. A few even suggested she was risking long-term damage just to prove a point. The pressure wasn't subtle. Every training run, every interview, every public appearance felt magnified. And for the first time in her career, it wasn't just about speed. It was about legitimacy. But here's what made it different. Vonn didn't argue. She didn't spiral into back-and-forth interviews. She trained. Quietly, intensely, letting the doubt build around her like fuel. Because she understood. Something critical, in Bonfoy's Honden, the only way to silence a divided crowd isn't with words, it's with results. And soon she was about to deliver one that no one could ignore. Then came the moment that flipped the entire narrative. After months of doubt, Lindsey Vonn didn't just show up. She shocked the ski world. At the 2025 World Cup Finals, she powered through a blazing Super G run and landed on the podium with a second-place finish. Not a symbolic result, not a polite welcome back, a real, elite, blink-and-you-miss-it performance against the fastest women on the planet. Suddenly, the conversation changed overnight. The same voices that questioned whether she belonged were now scrambling to understand how someone written off years earlier was racing like this again. Analysts called it one of the most remarkable comeback performances in modern skiing. Fans who once feared the return might tarnish her legacy started wondering if it might actually expand it. What made the moment even heavier was her reaction. She didn't celebrate like someone chasing attention. She looked relieved, almost emotional, as if the finish confirmed she hadn't. Imagine this second chapter. But success has a way of raising the stakes. Because once you prove you can still compete, the next question becomes unavoidable. How far are you willing to push it? And for Vonn, the answer would lead straight toward the biggest stage in sports, with far greater risks waiting. The podium finish didn't just prove she could compete again, it put the Olympics back in reach. And that's when the comeback stopped being a feel-good story and started looking like an all-in gamble. The 2026 Winter Games were approaching fast, and Vonn made it clear she wasn't returning just to participate. She wanted another Olympic moment. But behind the scenes, her body was once again walking a razor's edge. Reports surfaced that she had suffered a serious knee ligament injury during the buildup, the kind that would make most athletes shut things down immediately. Instead, she chose to keep going. To her supporters, that was pure Lindsey Vonn, fearless, stubborn, unwilling to back away from a challenge. To critics, it felt like tempting fate. The debate exploded again. Was she redefining resilience or pushing beyond what even she could control? Every training run carried tension. Every race felt heavier. Because when you chase greatness after already walking, away once, the margin for error disappears. And in a sport where one split second can change everything, that margin would soon run out. Then came the moment no one wanted to see, and the kind that freezes a crowd mid-breath. During a high-speed downhill run at the 2026 Winter Olympics, disaster struck. In a sport where athletes rocket down the mountain at highway speeds, one tiny miscalculation is all it takes. Vonn lost control and crashed hard, immediately signaling that something was seriously wrong. Medical teams rushed in, and the early reports confirmed fears, a complex fracture in her lower leg that would require multiple surgeries. Just like that, the comeback that had inspired millions collided with the brutal reality of alpine racing. The images spread quickly, and so did the reactions. Some called it heartbreaking. Others quietly asked the question nobody likes to say out loud: had she pushed too far? But if critics thought this would define her story, they misunderstood who Lindsey Vonn has always been. Because throughout her career, setbacks never wrote the ending. They fueled the next chapter. Now the entire sports world is waiting again, asking the same question it has asked so many times before. Is this finally the moment that stops her, or just another mountain she'll somehow find a way to climb? What makes Lindsey Vonn's story so gripping isn't just the victories or the crashes. It's the mindset that has followed her through every chapter. Long before the comeback, before the surgeries, even before the Olympic fall, she built a reputation for doing what most athletes wouldn't dare. Risk was never something she avoided. It was part of who she was. After the fracture, the conversation shifted from results to legacy. Not just what she accomplished, but what she represents. Some believe her relentless drive is exactly what turned her into a legend. Others wonder if that same refusal to back down is what keeps placing her in harm's way. But maybe that tension is the real answer to what happened to Lindsey Vonn. Nothing changed. She's still the athlete who refuses to live cautiously. And if history has proven anything, it's this: counting her out has never been a smart bet.